Hi, welcome to Crypto Ramble. My name is Desiree. I am speaking to someone from PIVX today. It's a meeting that has been in the works for quite some time. He's going to introduce himself, but I believe that he is a community member and his name is Cryptosi. I just figured out the right way to spell it, to pronounce it. And there is some big news. I'm not sure what it is, but I think we're going to find out what it is during the course of this interview about what PIVX has been developing. PIVX is a privacy coin. As you know, I'm really into privacy coins. And at one point, Particle and PIVX had a partnership going on. I think that waned a bit, but I think that also might be picking up again in the future. So I did a little background research into PIVX a long time ago, like a year and a half ago, and I understand a bit. But because the nature of this space is the changes happen so quickly because it's new and emerging technology, then things might be a bit different, and we're going to get an update. So hi Cryptosi, welcome to my channel, and why don't you let everyone know who you are in your own words.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here. Yeah, I'm Cryptosi. I'm basically a PIVX community member. Done some work on the governance and the alliances and things like that. So yeah, I'm interested to talk to you about PIVX and crypto in general, or whatever we have on the board for discussion today.
Okay, well, I think the first thing I would like to ask you is, how do you feel about privacy and its importance, especially when it comes to the crypto space and just about privacy coins in general?
To be honest with you, when I actually joined PIVX, I joined it mostly for the governance and not so much for the privacy. But as time has gone on, I've kind of got to realize that privacy is very important. So for me now, if a crypto doesn't have privacy, it's I wouldn't say it's worthless, but I don't think it has the ability to do a lot of the things that a crypto should be doing. I like to think that if Satoshi, him or herself, had have decided to ask for permission before building Bitcoin, the powers that be would have said no. The thing with privacy, not that I advocate breaking a law, but the thing with privacy is you can do things based on your own individual moral compass, as opposed to having to worry about the repercussions of the state being upset. So for me, a currency, it has to have privacy. It simply is not something that can be overlooked.
Yeah, that's something that I've realized a lot of people who are into privacy coins think. They think that, I mean, I kind of agree with that. If a currency doesn't already have privacy built in, then it's not really a currency, because currency, as we understand it now, most people think about what we've been using over the course of human history, and that had a level of privacy, obviously not total anonymity, but it had a level of privacy that Bitcoin today doesn't have. So that's definitely something that I think a lot of people, once they think about it and they realize how many cryptocurrencies aren't anonymous, because the word currency already has the idea of fungibility built into it, people think it's already going to be there. And then they realize that actually it's not there. And you were talking about Satoshi, and it wasn't obvious in the beginning that Bitcoin wasn't fungible. It was something that was discovered over time when they realized that the wallet addresses could be traced back to a single person. So in short, I am agreeing with what you said, just in a long, winded way.
I think also with Bitcoin, when Bitcoin was first launched, there weren't the gatekeepers in place that there are now. So I guess privacy wasn't such an important factor at that point, because I don't know if Satoshi had planned for it, but years later we've got exchanges and they've basically become the gatekeepers. So now you literally now need privacy. Otherwise, anytime you're moving into or out of fiat, you're going to have this problem, or even when you're moving in between different currencies on anything bigger than a really small scale, you're going to have this problem of you're going to have to do KYC with some exchange or the other. And I don't think Satoshi would have even considered that at the start. I don't know, but I don't think so.
Yeah, you're right. So how would you say that PIVX, because I want to turn the conversation to PIVX, how do you say PIVX in particular solves this need for privacy? You can get a little bit technical if you want or not. Just what are the privacy features? And a follow-up question I'll ask you afterwards is how is it different from other privacy coins that exist already?
Okay, all right. Okay, so PIVX, as it started, it was a fork of Dash. So we inherited Dash's coin join technology. That is basically, I'm not going to get too technical. That is basically that a bunch of users will all put their coins and jumble them up together via the masternodes, and then when you do make a transfer, it's going to be more difficult to know who sent the money and who's receiving the money. Coin join is okay, but immediately we were kind of the impression that if you're going to be a privacy coin, which Dash initially was, and then it got co-opted maybe to drop privacy in place of usability, and also in place of keeping the exchanges happy, the exchanges who were beholden to the regulators. So what had happened, a bit of background story, I guess, within Dash was, what happened within Dash was that somebody came along and he said, look, if we continue down this path of privacy, then we're not going to be able to get on the big exchanges, because what we think is that the big exchanges are going to start banning privacy coins. So let's not put privacy first, let's put usability first and try to make our next step, which was Dash Evolution, let's try and make that focused on usability, which at the time I actually agreed with. However, the problem was that they didn't go about it the right way. The governance didn't make the decision. A couple guys made the decision, and I didn't like it, and so I left. So anyway, that's wasn't as active in Dash, and I then went to PIVX. With CoinJoin in place, we decided, okay, what we want to do is move to the next step, and what we chose was a protocol called ZeroCoin. Now, ZeroCoin had actually, by the time we picked it up, it had been abandoned already by the original creators of ZeroCoin. They had already moved on to Zcash. We picked up ZeroCoin, we implemented it. I think we did, and Zcoin did. I'm not sure who was first. I think it may have been Zcoin, I'm not sure. We implemented it, and it was zero knowledge. So as opposed to it being a situation where you mix all your coins, it's a situation where the history of the coin is gone, because instead of using your coins from your wallet, you destroy your coins from your wallet and you use coins from a new pool of freshly generated coins, which means that those coins have got no history. So that's where the fungibility is said to come from. That was our second step, or our second attempt at privacy. That was broken in late 2018, I believe. Late 2018, that was broken. So now the big news is that we've now got a new protocol. I guess we'll speak about that later. But now we've got a new protocol that we're planning on implementing in the future.
Okay, I have a couple of questions from that. The first one is, when exactly, what year did PIVX begin when it forked from Dash?
PIVX started around, I think it was January or February in 2016. January 2016, I'm going to say.
Okay, and then the second... Okay, January 2016. And then the second question, I know you don't want to go into too much detail because some people who I think watch my channel might not want to hear it, but I am very curious because I've never heard about it. What is this thing about Dash with the governance and focusing on usability? Can you talk about specifically what features were changed?
Yes, of course. Okay, so Dash has got masternodes, right? To my knowledge, Dash were the first project to use masternodes. I think they invented masternodes. Now, what masternodes are is they're a special type of node that has got a few features. It provides special services to the network, 3 services. One is the coin join, which I initially spoke about, where it jumbles up coins for users and sends them on as a privacy feature. The second is instant send, which is a situation where between a random set of, I think it's 6 master nodes, they'll do a transaction and then they'll compute or they'll verify a transaction between them. So they can verify it very quickly. So instead of having to wait a full block, they can do it in a fraction of a second, pretty much instantly. So that's the second feature. Now the third feature, which is the most important feature and the most interesting to me personally, is the governance model. So what happens is, I think it's around 10% of the block reward. So 10% of the newly minted coins, they go into this. I'm explaining this slightly wrong, but I'm explaining it this way because it's simpler to grasp this way. So they go into this pool, which is like the budget. Now, anyone can put a proposal forward to the budget, and every month or every super block, which is roughly a month, the budget will pay out to these proposals. Now, these proposals can come from anyone, providing they pay 5-, which was supposed to initially be a spam filter feature. Now it's kind of expensive. I guess it's $500 at today's prices. And that added a real sense of decentralization. Although it wasn't immediate decentralization, what it meant was that there was no actual team who could say these guys should get funded for doing things for Dash and these guys shouldn't get funded. It was down to the actual holders themselves. To have a masternode, you need to hold 1,000 Dash. In PIVX, it's 10,000 PIVX. It's an arbitrary figure, but the idea is that you're holding a certain amount, so you really care. So you're not going to, on a whim, vote for some random feature. So that was the governance feature that Dash had in place. Now, I felt at the time that when they decided to make such a big change as moving the whole ethos of the project from privacy towards usability, I felt that that should have been something that the community was at least polled on, or at least asked, like, do you guys feel that this is a good idea? Should we discuss it? What are your opinions? Dash at the time and still now has got a lot of really experienced crypto people within it. So these people they've got a lot of knowledge. I think it would have been worth having a discussion, and it wasn't had. So that was the reason why I don't want to say got the hump, but I was disillusioned, let's say. And then I decided I would focus on somewhere where I guess community would have a bigger say in what was going to happen to the actual coin itself.
Okay, so this was more about, well, what you just said, but the actual privacy features of Dash didn't shift. It was just they made changes that ignored using their governance protocol that was already there.
Yes, but the real thing is with privacy, even to this very day, is that privacy is still not perfect. So unless you're going to pursue privacy, you're going to fall behind. So I guess Zero Coin, for example, the verification times were kind of slow. It bloated the blockchain. It's got all these problems with them. All privacy protocols that are around today have got some kind of trade-offs with them. Now, the issue is, if you're not going to be a privacy coin, then you're not going to be optimizing your efficiencies for privacy. You're going to be optimizing your efficiencies for other things, and then privacy is going to become either a problem for the project moving forward, or it's just not going to compare to your competitors, being other currencies. For example, CoinJoin is still within Dash today, and some people call Dash a privacy coin. But I don't. And I don't want to upset anybody, but I just think privacy by obfuscation, it's just nowhere near good enough. No one has the conversation where they'll say ring CT, which is what Monero uses, particle, and ZK Snarks, which is what Zcash uses, and then CoinJoin. No one has that conversation where you put those three together and say which is the best, because everybody knows CoinJoin is not even in the conversation. And this is only, I guess, 5 years later, and they're just out of it. It's just kind of forget about it. And that is how it goes. If PIVX tomorrow said, oh, let's focus on, I don't know, expanding into Venezuela and not worrying about privacy, in 3 or 4 years' time, 5 years' time, let's say, PIVX would then shouldn't be mentioned in the privacy coin category because all the other guys would have left us behind.
Okay, that definitely explains what you mean a bit more. Thanks for explaining some more. So, can you go into more of how PIVX works, like more of the details? I know you kind of said it already, but go into more detail about like what all the different features are, even though I guess privacy would be the top feature.
Yeah. Okay. So currently, as PIVX is now, without privacy, because currently PIVX has no privacy. Like I said, zero coin broke, and we're in a transition phase, moving to the next stage, which will be sapling. I guess we'll speak about that later. But
yeah, I will.
Currently, PIVX works. Yeah, PIVX works now as exactly as Dash does, effectively. So we still have the masternode governance model. We haven't changed it since we've inherited from Dash. I guess only minor changes. It's a proof of stake coin, which is very different to proof of work. For some economic reasons, some, I don't know, borderline philosophical reasons, we're talking about value leaving the network to go to what I would consider being external actors to secure the network. So with proof of work, you have miners. I personally see miners as external. So you're outsourcing the security of the network to other people. You're incentivizing them to secure it, and it does work. But I feel like that value is leaving the network. It's always a downwards push on the value. So we use a proof of stake, and we have done so for a long time. PIVX is more community-led, I would say, than a lot of other projects, in that before we go to do a lot of major things, there is discussion, there is polling. So we had a vote to say whether or not we should have masternode only governance. So to buy a masternode, today's prices, I think it's something like $3,500 US. That's quite a lot to have a say.
Yeah.
It's a lot, right? It's a lot in the Western world. So if we're talking about the third world and places where blockchain really has an opportunity to flourish, even places like Venezuela, that's always talked about, South America, Sub-Saharan Africa, these places, to have $3,500 US just so that you can have a say, forget about it. So you're going to have the same monopoly of the Western man or woman choosing what should happen, and it's just not really global. So we had this discussion: should we remove masternode voting? And the answer was yes. Now we haven't done it as yet because we've got privacy to handle. We've got to keep up with BTC, just loads of other things that we have to actually do. But that's in an overview, in a nutshell, that's kind of how PIVX works. It is a currency. It is a privacy currency, meaning that we will always be on the forefront of privacy. Whether that is, the safest bet or not, it's always going to be what we want to do and where we want to be. So, like I said, with zero coin breaking, it was bad. That's bad, right? You know what I mean? Like, you can't have your value in something when there is a chance it's going to break, but that's what you have to risk when you're always at the forefront, when you're always cutting edge technology. So I guess overall that is PIVX in a nutshell.
Okay. I'm curious about how the project has done, like with the community and also with like marketing, attention, price-wise, with the whole bear market, because it's been really, really crappy for a lot of projects out there. So what's it been like for PIVX?
It's been terrible for us. Terrible. For two reasons. First of all, I think that the thing with PIVX is that PIVX had a real bull run, like a real meteoric rise, where we were 130 something when a lot of people joined PIVX at one time. A lot joined from Dash, and I guess the energy around the project just changed. And then there was this meteoric rise within the space of a few months where PIVX got to as high as, I think it was 9th in coin market cap at its peak. So it was up there with everyone else. And during that time, I guess we did try, but it was very difficult to not start to think that we were all the smartest human beings on the planet. Like, we all just were high-fiving each other and just feeling great. And I feel like we took our eye off the ball with two things in particular. I think we took our eye off the ball. I think we took our eye off the ball with privacy and improving it. And I think we also took our eye off the ball with our exchanges and which exchanges we were listed on. So what happened to us was, when we hit the bear market, because we were only ever on a few exchanges, so we were never on PIVX when it was huge. I guess people who have not been around that long won't remember, but PIVX was huge and we were never on that. So we was only on Bittrex. So we were only ever on like the second biggest platform. We were then on Binance, but that was a bit late. And when the bear market hit, because our volume was lower than other projects, our price was susceptible to bigger swings. And this is what happens with, I guess it could happen with any project, but if you've got less volume, if you're on less exchanges, you're less spread out, when you do get a hit, you're going to get a bigger hit. Now that's tied into our funding model, because our funding model is based on new coins that are minted, and if those new coins have a lower value, suddenly we've got a smaller budget. So we went from having a team with, I think we had about 8 developers at one point, from having a budget that then got slashed by about 80% in a matter of weeks. And how are you going to then keep funding all these people? Their payment drops. Then I guess at that point, I don't want to say panic sets in, but the mood changes, right? And it hit us really hard. I think the only thing that really kept the project together was the fact that it wasn't built on financial gain in the first place. So most of the people who are still around were around before the first bull run. Then we picked up other people who were in it more for the it's going to sound really cliche, but more really want to try and change the world, really want to add another option, another viable option for a privacy coin. Those people are still around because the money isn't the main driving factor. For others, the money would be a bigger driving factor. So yeah, the bull market hit us real hard with a slash budget. We're back to relying on people doing things for altruism and not for the mighty dollar. And that's a difficult thing to get out of people. With all the best will in the world, people need to get paid. Do you know what I mean? So the bull market for us, it has been really hard, but I guess the good thing about it is that it's made us be able to operate on a more leaner budget. Now, when the bear market has been hard, but when the bull market does return, are we then going to keep that lean economy that we've got now, or are we going to start spending loads of money on things that shouldn't cost loads of money? And I guess that's only time will tell. Only time will tell.
Yeah, that I'm guessing that's the story of a lot of other projects, but I only really have experience with Particle, and it's about the same thing. Just the other day I went somewhere and I wasn't being paid for my time. I just had the community funded some of it, and a lot of people, all the devs, they're working for less, and a lot of the marketing stuff was just cut, and it's a struggle. It's a real struggle out there, and I don't think you can help having a whole bunch of people come on board who don't care about the tenets, the core tenets of what our project is there for, mostly philosophically speaking. And you also can't tell. You just can't tell until something like a bear market happens who's there for what. That's something that reveals itself over time. And for me, from my experience, having seen what happened with Particle, and I'm going to guess with other projects too, the real way to move forward, and the thing that I hope projects don't drop the ball with and focus on, is providing value to people. So if you're building something, you should be speaking to and talking to the people that you're building it for and making sure that they can use it. I guess in your case, not to the point where you ignore whatever your primary focus is, which should be privacy, but so many people were just in it for the hype, and I don't blame them. I just think it's a natural human thing to do that. But I do think that the solution is to focus on what you're building and making sure it's actually what people want and need. You were talking about the third world, that the $3,500, like that's like a year's salary for some people. You know, like that kind of thinking is very good, you know, to have in mind. Okay, so thanks for sharing that also. And I now want to ask you about the big thing that someone I was talking to on Twitter, the community manager, was talking about, the sapling stuff. Definitely go all out in explaining what it is and what's new, how it works, that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right, cool. Right, so I'm obviously I'm biased, but I'm not so excited about this purely because I am a part of the PIVX community, right? So the thing is with the decision of the options that were available, we've already had a situation where we had a privacy protocol. All right, let me explain a little bit about how privacy protocols work, right? So with something like Zero Coin, you have got underlying principle or the underlying technology beneath the actual privacy protocol is a group of what's known as cryptographic proofs, right? So there's some really complicated, I think, what's the guy's name? Someone calls it moon math. It's just a bunch of these equations that no one can understand. Like I can look at them and they mean nothing to me, but cryptographers understand it, right? So we went initially with Zero Coin, but they had already, the actual original developers had already left. So what we ended up was with a group of cryptographic proofs that didn't have a lot of eyes on them. So at this point, when we was choosing another one, and I guess it's well documented, so it's not news to anybody, we was all speculating on what we were going to do and what we weren't going to do. At one point, it was on the cards for PIVX to create something new. Oh, we're going to create our own cryptographic proof, so we're going to do everything from the ground floor up. I thought that was a terrible idea because we simply don't have the cryptographers for a start, although we do have guys that can do cryptography. And then not only that, but I feel like it needs peer review plus time in the wild to allow people to have some faith within it. So what we've decided to go for this time is sapling, which is made by the guys from Zcash. Now they're, I would say, probably, as far as crypto goes, if not the most eyes on their cryptography, then certainly within the top 2 or 3. Right, so there's loads of eyes on their cryptography. There's loads of people looking at it all the time, trying to break it, trying to find ways in which it doesn't work. There has been, I think it was maybe a year or so ago, when they found, okay, there is a problem with the cryptography, but they found it and then they moved it on to sapling as it is now with this new accumulator. So we've got this sapling. It's effectively, the building blocks are, I would say, more stable than Zero Coin was. The cryptography is more stable in the fact that it's been out in the wild with Zcash for a while now. On top of that, you then have to worry about the implementation. So the stage we're at now is that we've decided what we're going to use. Now we need to implement it into our own proof of stake blockchain, which we've already got. Hopefully it will mean that our transaction sizes are not so big, our blockchain doesn't become so bloated, we can do transactions quicker, and we can do them effectively on mobile and light wallets, which will mean that you won't have to have the full blockchain. I think it's 13 gigabytes at the moment. It'll probably be more than that by the time it's released at the end of the year. And that is effectively sapling. It's still zero knowledge. It's ZK Snarks. It has a trusted setup, which a lot of people don't like. What a trusted setup is basically is that you have to go through this kind of ceremony to get what is kind of the the master key to the entire project. If somebody else has this master key, or if all the people who were in the ceremony colluded together, then with that master key you can then create endless amounts and mess with the supply, effectively ruin the whole project. I think I've explained pretty much what it is without going into too much depth. I guess that's what it is, yeah. I don't know if I've missed anything.
Okay, well, I won't know if you've missed anything either, but I have some follow-up questions. Well, I should say that I don't like the trusted setup thing. That was the issue I always had with Zero Cash, because I know you're supposed to, there's a ceremony where you destroy the key and they have proof of that, but I fundamentally, I'm against that. In the defense of trusted setups, as you mentioned earlier, most privacy solutions have issues. Like pretty much everything that's out there today, there's like some flaw that can be poked into it. I am wondering, is this similar to what Zcoin was doing? Because they had I forget what it's called, Lelantis protocol, that I think got rid of the trusted setup, but is it at all related to that, if you know?
All right, so here's the thing, right? The thing is, there are some protocols that I'm not going to say claim, because they don't have a trusted setup. So there are some trustless setup protocols. The problem is that none of them have been around for long enough to be battle tested. So if you have a trustless setup, how do you know that even if it's trustless, it's not susceptible to exploits? And chances are, at some point, somebody will find a way to exploit it. So I don't think, and this is only the way I've been feeling recently, maybe the last few months, the way trusted setups are moving forward, I don't think there's a huge gulf between a trusted setup and a trustless setup. Trusted setups have been around for a while now, and they're yet to be broken. We've yet to see a time when they've been broken. On top of that, because they're advancing, they're moving to a stage now where you've got things like, I want to say Sonics. I don't know what they're called. I don't know what they've been called by crypto projects. But what happens is basically you have a trusted setup, and then you keep on doing it every interval. So maybe you could do it every 3 months or every 6 months, where you're redoing the trusted setup. And then what you would then need is not only for the people in the initial ceremony to all collude, but you would then need all the people from all the ceremonies ever to collude. So if you keep on doing trusted setups every, let's say, 2 months for 2 years, then you've gone through 12 trusted setups, countless amounts of people. You would then have a key that's so secure, unless you're going to get, I don't know, let's say you have 5 people in each one, unless you're going to get all of those 60 people to collude together, chances of you breaking that key are then next to none. And then the underlying cryptography beneath that has been around for decades. So I feel like trusted versus trustless will be a real debate this year. I think that people are going to start to say, well, this trusted thing, it's not, the level of trust you have is not as high. It's not as if there's like 2 guys within PIVX that will have the keys and you have to hope that those 2 guys don't do it. I'm going to assume, because I don't think they've let details out of how we're going to do our trusted setup, but I'm just going to assume that we're going to use Zcash's key that they produced from their trusted setup. So I'm going to assume that we're not going to do a trusted setup between us anyway. I'm going to assume that, and I may be wrong, but that's what I'm going to assume we're going to do.
Okay, just a quick question. Is Zcash proof of work? Because I don't know. Or is it proof of stake?
Yeah, I believe it's proof of work. I believe Zcash is proof of work, and they have a 10% block reward, similar to what we have for a budget, but instead of it going in a decentralized way to anybody who puts forwards a proposal, it goes to the team, which I forget what they're called, but it goes to the central team. Yeah, or whoever they are.
Yeah, I remember
I think.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's how I think it works.
Okay. My other question was, in this scenario where you have multiple trusted setups, how would someone like me, looking out from the distance, suspiciously, how would I know that it was occurring multiple times? Like, how do you know that this ceremony is occurring? And
I don't know because I don't think any project has yet to actually implement it. That I think multiple trusted setups, although it's been around as a paper I read the paper first in late 18. I think it was November 18. So I think it came out. It would have been maybe summer or autumn 2018. Although it's been around for that long, I don't think any project has yet to implement it. So I don't know how developers would have this ongoing ceremony and how they would have it publicized. I don't know. It depends on the implementation at that point. It depends on how the developers want to implement it, and I'm literally not knowledgeable enough to be able to answer that. It would just depend on how they did it. So yeah, that's an issue that even I have with privacy coins in general, and it's mostly about supply auditability. So if I can't tell how many coins there are, how do I know that people aren't creating coins coin because they're removing its scarcity? That's
sorry, I missed.
For me,
sorry, you froze for a second. You said, "How do you know that people aren't creating coins somewhere?" Could you just start again after that?
Yeah. So sorry. So with an unauditable supply, so say you've got a privacy coin where the supply is not auditable, you can't audit it. How would you know if somebody's not creating coins somewhere? That's a genuine worry. That's a genuine worry, and I don't know how you mitigate something like that. That's just a problem. That's just a problem for me. It's just a big problem still.
So in PIVX's, I guess Zcash's and PIVX's sapling protocol, is the supply auditable with that, or is it not?
I'm not sure. As far as I know, it's not auditable. But okay. I'm not sure. I'm not perfectly sure because I'm not sure how we're going to implement it. So I'm quite sure that there will be a push for there to be an auditable supply, because when we spoke about what we needed from a privacy protocol, auditability within the supply was up there. So if there's not an auditable supply, we're going to have ways to mitigate the fear of somebody being able to produce these coins by having an exploit, which is what happened with Zero Coin when it broke. Somebody could create these spends out of thin air.
Okay, I was actually going to go back to that and ask you how exactly the Zero Coin protocol was destroyed. But this sounds very interesting. That is my reason to not like Zero Cash and I guess PIVX, well, Zcash, just because of the trusted setup. So this idea that you can have multiple trusted setups, and so you would need an unfeasible number of people to collude together in order to cheat the system. I've never heard of that, so that's very interesting to hear about. And if it's something that's possible, like I said, I will probably be peering in through the window suspiciously at the whole thing. But if that's true, that would be a very good thing. So yeah, that's cool. Okay, so I'm nearing towards the end, but I want to ask you about how you think privacy will evolve in the space. I just had a conversation earlier with someone where, in my opinion, the biggest threat to privacy coins isn't actually regulation, just because they're inherently, in some ways, censorship resistant, but marketing is the issue, and getting people to actually care about privacy, think it's important, and for the learning curve to not be too high for someone to want to start and then begin to learn how to use it. But how do you see the future of the crypto space in terms of privacy? People are talking about it more, at least on my Twitter, but how do you see that, going?
I don't know. I don't see privacy as being isolated. So I don't see it as being like something on its own away from crypto. So I guess it depends on what happens within the outer world. Like sorry, I don't know if I froze then. For example, if we have a situation where we have another big financial meltdown and we have maybe an economy bigger than Greece that has bail-ins where they start taking money from people's account and saying, oh look, everybody has to pay $1,000, that's just how it is. If we have something like that happen, privacy coins suddenly become a lot more attractive. People suddenly want to learn or need to learn or have to learn what privacy coins are. So I don't think it's so much what happens within crypto that will affect how privacy coins are seen by the outside world. I think it's more about what happens outside of crypto for privacy coins. As far as how they will develop, the push is just for faster, smaller transactions. Faster, smaller transactions. And currently, I think that even sapling that PIVX is moving to is just about usable. I think we're just getting to a stage now where we've got privacy coins which are actually usable, and you've got more than one option. Whereas before, I guess the ultimate argument would have been you can't have ring CT or Monero transactions on a mobile, or is it Zcash? You can't have those transactions on the mobiles. It's too processor intensive. It's not possible. Sorry. I think now we're getting to a stage where you can do those things on a mobile. So suddenly, privacy is not so heavy. It's not so clunky. It's not such a massive compromise. Now we're going to see a lot of other projects add in privacy, I believe, because it's getting to that size where it is that small. There is enough of it around. It's been around for long enough. It's not so scary to everyone. I'm quite sure the regulators will hammer it. I'm quite sure the regulators will hammer it. Exchanges, I think, will continue to delist privacy coins, like as we all knew they would in 2014. They are, because they're going to do whatever the banks want them to do. They're just businesses. We shouldn't expect them to be freedom fighters, because they're not. There's no money in that. I feel like if that does happen, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it could be a good thing. It will push us towards decentralized exchanges, which I know a lot of people talk about, and we're on the cusp of those things now. So that's where I see privacy going. I see it as being a catalyst, but I don't think we're going to get through to the average Joe, because I don't know where you are, but in the UK, the average Joe just doesn't really need privacy that much. They just don't need it that much. And even when they do need it, they're just unaware that they need it. A lot of them don't even know it's an option. They don't even know how badly they're being screwed over by the current financial system. They don't even know how badly they're being corralled. They don't understand. And when they do understand, they're just like, this is too much headache. I'd rather watch reality TV. Just leave me alone. That's just how it works. So for me, definitely smaller, faster transactions, which will mean more blockchains will adopt privacy. The regulators will keep hammering it. The average Joe, regardless of the way I feel, regardless of how we try to sell it to them, they're not going to go for it until they need it. So hopefully, if Brexit underway, will cause some kind of crash in Europe, and everybody will decide, look, we need to have financial sovereignty, and then I think then there'll be a real fight. Then I think the front line of crypto is privacy, and I think when the privacy coins really get going, that's when we'll see the real fight. That's when there will really be problems. So far, it's been kind of easy because there's no privacy coins that can really compete. But I believe we're getting there now.
That's a good take. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so my final question to you is, where can people get PIVX, find out about it, join the community? Anything else I didn't ask that you want to share about the project also?
Where can people get PIVX? I don't even know. I guess we're still on. I guess we're on Bittrex and we're on Binance, as far as I know. I don't know. So you get it from an exchange, some exchange. Most exchanges have PIVX, and if they don't, it's a rubbish exchange. You shouldn't use them. They're probably scammers. No, I'm joking. So yeah, you can get it from most exchanges. What I would say, really, the best thing about PIVX is that you can just join, and because we've been around a while, we're a lot better than we used to be at integrating people into the community. So you should feel free to join the Discord. We have a Telegram as well. I don't like it, so I'm not really in it. But you can go to Telegram if you prefer Telegram, or come into the Discord. We've got various communities. Our community is quite big, so we've got various languages. So if you speak if you're Korean, I guess you wouldn't be watching this, but if you do speak Korean and you speak English as well, we've got quite a big Korean community, so you can speak with them in your native tongue. And we've got a big Spanish community. We're quite diverse. It's quite a diverse project. So yeah, join the Discord. Just don't be afraid to just come and hang out. Like, we're not always in there speaking about cryptography or really complex issues or anything deep and philosophical. Sometimes we're just talking about the weather or whatever, and it's good to just come in and make friends and then learn a little bit, or help. If you're knowledgeable, come in and help. There is the budget, so if you do have an idea for something and you do want to be paid for it, put forward I don't know, $20 odd, I guess, at today's prices. But people will help you. I'll help you if you want to put forward a proposal. It's always good to come in and just share your ideas. You don't get run out of town for bad ideas, so just share them. And yeah, generally that's PIVX in a nutshell. Join the community. That's the best way. Within any crypto, I would say the best way to find out about the project is to join the community and speak to people and see if you fit. Sometimes you may not fit. Doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad project. Maybe energies just don't align, and if that's the case, then yeah, you're probably better off somewhere else. But if you come to PIVX, chances are you'll be well at home and you'll be enjoying it.
All right. Okay, one more quick question, because I'm curious. How big is the PIVX community? If you have any numbers, because you might not know that.
I have no idea. I know it's not as big as it was in its prime. In its prime, we had Slack, and it broke because we had over 10,000 members. Now,
wow.
that's probably not all human beings. Some of them would have been bots, but at that point, that was during our rise, the community was huge. Now it's still massive. I don't know, like, a lot of the time I'll go into Discord and there's people talking and I've never spoken to them. So it's still a big community. The good thing about a project with masternode governance is you can tell the size and the diversity of the community often by the size and the diversity of the proposals that are coming in. So we've had proposals, we haven't got many at the moment, we've shrunk, but we've had proposals coming from people from all over the place, Russia and Latvia, and obviously Spanish speaking. We've got a lot of Spanish speaking people in our community. Our Spanish community is pretty big now. I'd say the community is still in the thousands. I'd say it's still in the thousands. We've got like 60,000 followers on Twitter, and I'd say it's still in the thousands. 10,000 or so, I would assume, somewhere around there. But there's quite a few people, definitely.
Okay. I know I said I already asked the last question, but I just thought about one more, similar to the last one that was supposed to be the last one, which is, how high was the market cap, if you know, at the all-time high? You might not know that. I could just look on CoinMarketCap.
I wouldn't know that. I'm going to, at the all-time high or at all-time high position?
Position. No, not position.
Okay.
Like what was the biggest? No, okay. Actually, position. At all-time high position.
Okay, I'll answer both. Right. Okay. So I'm going to try to figure it out. When we were 9th in CoinMarketCap, that was before the big bull run of 2017. So our market cap at the time was probably around 80 million, I'm going to say. Probably around 80 million, because I think we were just over $1. So I'm going to guess when we were ninth, our market cap was 80 million. But this was pre-2017 bull run. So everything was a lot smaller then. I think Bitcoin was, I don't know, $1,000, something like that. Our all-time high in terms of just market cap, pure market cap, would have been over 750 million. All-time high. I don't think we ever broke 1 billion, but we were definitely over 750 million when we hit our all-time high. So I would guess 800 million, I'm going to go with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for your time and explaining everything. It was great to meet you and to learn more about PIVX and about the new stuff coming up. I would love to see this whole multiple trust hub setup thing. That would be great. Thank you for coming on the channel. Again, I'm talking to Cryptosi, and you were just hearing all about PIVX, and you can go and find them on Discord and on Twitter and on Telegram if you so choose. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Okay. Bye.